Welcome to another episode of Create or Die. It's me, Ike, your host for today's and probably every other episode. But seriously, folks, we've got us a good one today. We're going to be talking about something that I think we can all do better at. It's staying motivated. So if you want to learn how I do that and potentially these things will work for you, then you need to stay right here. That's right, friends. Welcome back. So, like I kind of teased in the beginning here, we've got some important stuff to talk about. It's how to stay motivated. I mean, we do this job for money, and we need to create to stay alive. And sometimes when we're always creating, it can be a struggle to stay motivated. So how do we do that, right? Well, I can just speak from one dude's experience, okay? And what I would say is that motivation can only get you so far. It's as simple as it gets. You know, it's not always about just staying motivated. And guess what? If you're not motivated, you don't have to work. No, it doesn't work that way. Especially when we're talking commercial art. You know, you're trading what you do for income. And you got to keep that income steady coming in, whether you're working for someone else at an agency or in-house, or you're your solo own cowboy, you know, working the freelance range. You know, either way, this is critical to learn. At least that's been my experience, and I'll be honest, I've heard others say it as well, so I'm not coming at you with anything new. But so if it's not just motivation, what is the other piece? Well, it's kind of an amalgamation, if you will, of things. You got your perseverance, you got your discipline, you got your focus, and there's probably some other things we can mix up in there, you know, other words that are basically saying the same thing. It's like you got to have grit to keep it going. Okay, we're done here, right? Not quite. There's a little bit more to it. So let's just roll back a little bit and think about, let's dissect motivation a little bit. Well, when I think of myself, what motivates me to create, especially when it's something that I'm doing for someone else, and that's what we're primarily talking about here, commercial art. You know, yeah, I want to provide for my family. That's like number one. Okay. Number two might be, I just don't want to be broke, because I've done that before and it ain't fun, right? You know, another thing might be you're trying to build an audience. You know, and you know that consistency matters. You got to get content out the door. Maybe you're motivated because you want to take your skill set to the next level. You know, whether you're a specialist or you're a generalist. You know, there's always a part of what you do that you can make better. And so that's motivating. You know, you might want to impress your peers, whether they're people that work alongside of you, or they're in the industry, or just colleagues you've worked with before. And then, of course, you're going to want to please your client or your employer, right? Because that's kind of important if you want to keep them dollar bills flowing. Okay? So those are some of the things that motivate me. What about you? Drop it in the comments. You know, are there things that I missed there? Likely there are. Now, what happens if you're doing pretty good at those things, Or maybe the complete opposite. You feel like, I've tried to impress my boss, I've tried to get the accolades of my peers, and it's just not happening no matter what I do. And you're looking at others and comparing yourself. Well, I just want to take a nap at this point, and just sleep away my sorrows, right? You feel that? Yeah, that can only get you so far. And, if you're providing for your family, and maybe you've decided that, hey, I'm hitting myself up against a wall, maybe this isn't my thing, and you might get distracted to other things like, well, what if I invest in my own stuff and I can just kind of coast at work? But that's not right. You're going to feel bad about yourself if you have any type of morals. You want to, if you're getting paid, you want to feel like it's a mutually beneficial deal. At least that's me. So yeah, you don't want to quiet quit. You don't want to not put in your full effort when you're on the clock for your employer or your client, what have you. So how can we get around this? Because I'll be honest, call it burnout, whatever. There have been times recently where I've, come home after a rough day at work, but I know that I've committed to deliver on, a project for a friend or a client on the side, and I'm just mentally drained. I just want to sit there in front of the TV and just veg, or go lay down, or do anything but do that project that I've committed to do. And it's funny, I've probably said this before, but that's when all the great ideas come to me for my own work. Like, oh, I could create these cool animations and sell them on Getty or iStock video and put a couple of those out. I'll make $1,000 a week. I won't even have to do some of this. No, that ain't right either. You're getting distracted. Okay. So, but those might be good ideas. So write them down, capture them for sure. You always want to have something arm's length to capture those good ideas. So this is one of those little public service announcement tips here, like, whether it's your phone or whether it's your iPad, it's a piece of paper. You can text yourself an idea, you can Slack yourself an idea, you can doodle it out in Procreate Pocket on the phone or Procreate on the iPad or anything, notes, whatever, but somewhere where it's not going to get misplaced, because I'm a big believer in the power of, those inspiring nudges or thoughts or whatever that come our way. So you got to capture those things, and you got to capture them right away. So back to the subject of, hey, we're not motivated, and how do we avoid just going into a state of, self-wallowing pity and sleeping it off, or just watching the TV and not doing what we need to do to, deliver on our commitments, right? And that's what it comes down to. And maybe you haven't committed to someone else, a client or an employer or whoever. And maybe you're just a solo dude or dudette, You got to make commitments to yourself. You should have goals, aspirations, places where you want to get, because if we're not improving, that's when I feel that we're not as happy as we could be. Essentially that, and I'm not making this up, I heard it from somewhere, that when we're improving, that is the key to happiness. Improving in our relationships, in our skill set, whatever. If you're not improving, yeah. So just get to it, Ike. Right. Seriously. So what can we do? Well, like I talked about earlier, discipline, grit, all those synonyms that essentially mean you gotta grin and bear it and do hard things sometimes. Now, to some of us, you might just want to turn that off. Like, I don't want to do hard things. That doesn't sound awesome when there are so many more comfortable, rewarding, easy things that can be done. Again, that's not the key to happiness, right? So I've got to trick myself. That's what I do. Let's say I get to work 9 a.m. I'm looking at an 8-9 hour day ahead of me, right? And I know that there's like this project that I really want to work on. Like, it'll be fun. I gotta try out some new skills in a program or try some ideas because it's a video piece and I want to incorporate some 3D into it. Or I'm mocking up a mailer, and I know I'm going to jump into Blender or Cinema 4D and create something like a wow image to sell the concept to the stakeholders. And those are fun, and I want to do those. And so you might be like, hey, that's what motivates me right now. Those tick a lot of boxes, so I'm just going to jump into that. That, my friends, would be a mistake. Okay, because if you've got other things you got to do, like write an email, deal with some administrative stuff, maybe you're a people manager and you got to touch base with your people. You planned one-on-ones, or you need to set up one-on-ones, whatever. The list goes on and on. Things that aren't as fun for you, if you're like me, as just getting in there and doing the new, fun, cool, sexy stuff, right? So what do? Well, my argument, what's worked for me, is you go and you find that thing that you don't want to do, and you do it first. Okay, and maybe you're like, I'm not feeling very articulate right now. I can't sit in front of the open, empty email and type out this message to my client or my boss that's going to really get across what it needs to. Well, you just do it. You just get started, okay? Even if it sounds like crap. One thing I'll do if I'm drafting an email, for example, and you're sending it to a specific client or your boss or whoever, someone of importance, don't put their email in the to column, or field until you're feeling pretty good about this email and you can hit send, because sometimes we accidentally hit send or we get in the zone and we forget that we haven't, reread this or massaged what it is we're going to say. And you don't want things to get sent by accident, right? That ain't good. So, but what I'll do is, I don't feel like this. I don't feel particularly wordsmithy at the moment, right? Wordsmithy, the new t-shirt from Create or Die. It should be, right? Well, just start throwing letters, words, sentences onto the blank email canvas, if you will. Because once you have something to start from, then you can start dissecting it, or, I said that horribly, let me rewrite that. And you don't even have to do it right then. You've told yourself, okay, I'm going to take a stab at this email before I get to this fun project at all. I got to put some effort towards it. And so maybe you take a first pass at it and you're like, that's crap. But at least I started, right? Save that to your drafts and then tell yourself, okay, I'm going to reward myself with an hour of time on this project I really want to do. Then after that hour, I'm going to come back to that email and do a second pass. Still kind of planning that, hey, this needs to go out today, or it needs to go out by lunch, whatever. You've got to kind of plan this out. But essentially, you could call it motivation. I'm essentially being motivated by this carrot that I'm holding out of something funner that I want to do. Whereas if I would have got onto that first, and, for one, I'd feel guilty in the background, like, oh man, I should be working on this email, or I should be working on this write-up or this training that I'm being forced to do on the company's products, and all of us have to pass it by 80% or whatever it is, these things you don't want to do. And you might get lost in the sauce. You're working at this thing that you love, of course, but you shouldn't be doing it because this thing's being held over you. So what would you rather have? A carrot for something that you are excited to do after you put in a little bit of hard, or you're having fun and you've got this, anvil floating above your head, because if you don't do it in time, it's going to drop and you're going to face the consequences for that thing that you should have done first, right? So if I seem passionate or even condescending or like a know-it-all or whatever, it's not because I know better than you, but rather I don't want you to experience the pain, essentially, that I've experienced. So I forget, Alex Hormozi has a great quote on, the experience without the scars, something like that. So you're new, maybe you haven't figured this out yet, your life has been smooth sailing, whatever. Great. Don't have to learn the hard way. Learn from my mistakes, my scars. That, my friends, would be ideal for you. Okay? So that's one thing, is reward. And if I seem distracted, it's because I'm looking at the battery indicator on my camera and I'm not sure what it's saying. Is it running low or just barely starting to drain? I'm gonna say it's running low, but I freaking charge that thing for days, and maybe that's the problem. Okay. So, one way to build discipline is to reward yourself with the fun things you want to do. And set a timer. Timers are important. Whether it's a physical timer on your phone or you buy some, I know I've seen it advertised out there on Instagram or different things, some type of a device. And if I can find the one I'm thinking of, I'll put it in the description with an affiliate link where you can pick that up on Amazon, because I've been meaning to get one myself. But I can't speak from experience because I haven't had one, but timers are huge. So timers, rewards, well, okay, say you've done that. All right. Now, this next tip may not work at work, okay? Now, at MX, we used to have nap rooms. Now, I was always too afraid, honestly, or felt wrong about using them, because it's like you're here at work and you're just going to go sleep away a couple hours worth of your time at work, or 30 minutes, whatever. And because I can't sleep for 15, right? or I take an hour nap. That means I'll be here an hour later in the day. Wasn't sure. But if you're on your own time, it's the evenings, it's the weekend, or you're a freelancer and you hit a wall and you're literally trying to do stuff, because this happens too. I mean, we're human beings, right? We get tired. We can only run so fast, and the caffeine can only keep us going for so long, right? Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is step away. Whether it's a nap or it's a walk or it's time with your family, it's an activity. Sometimes you got to do that. So, but again, give yourself a certain set time that isn't ridiculous and can still help you hit those time limits. So like if I've come home at night and it's like I've committed to a client that I will get them something by the end of the day, that day, and I need to be clear, like, we're not talking close of business, we're talking 11:59 p.m. or maybe even 1 a.m. In my book, that's still today, but not if it's not today in the client's book, right? So you might say, yeah, come home, I can afford to take a 1 hour nap, I'm going to set those timers, and yeah, it's going to be a little uncomfortable to pull myself out of that sleep and get off of that bed or couch or whatever, but it's going to be a lot better. You will have, cleared the mind a little bit and come back, and maybe you'll only be able to go for another hour or two, but hopefully you've timed things out enough to where you get that thing done. And that takes me back to time in general and how you're not going to find more time. Just accept that. You're going to have to make time. And how do we do that? We look at what we're doing. Again, Alex Hormozy, he was complaining to a friend earlier on before he became this disciplined money-making juggernaut, like, oh, I'd love to do this, I just don't have the time. The friend grabbed his phone and looked at the usage and said, oh, it says here that you spend 3 hours a day on social media. I found you some time, congratulations. But still, just because that time has been found, it still has to be made and created, and right, because we're going to fall into those same traps of, when I have a little break, I'm jumping straight into TikTok, or when I have a little break, no, I'm going to start taking down notes on my iPhone of different content pieces or that I could create to build my audience, or different projects that would be fun to do, help build my portfolio or sell on iStock or whatever. Or I could be brainstorming ideas of projects that I want to suggest to my boss at work, which will give me a win, right? With the boss, look, he's thinking outside of the box, as well as it'll give me more of that stuff I like to do, so that my days aren't just spent doing things I don't want to do. Because that's, another thing. And it's crazy how we start talking here, I start talking, and more ideas come, and it reminds me of this thing or that thing. But one of my good friends and mentors, Mr. Don McDonald, former CMO of Intel, Qualcomm, MX, Fiserv, lots of awesome experience. He would always tell me that, you have to be intentional with your time, the things that you want to get done, because otherwise it's like a vacuum. Your time's going to get filled up with the things that other people want you to do. So if you've been intentional and done a good job at kind of explaining why it is that this should be the focus, then that's going to give you that ammunition to say no to random other department that needs a little help with, a low-level swag item or thing to help them hit their goals. Because, and that's something I continue to struggle with, because I want to be a people pleaser. I want to have good things said about me, and that served me well up to a certain point. But I'll be honest, I've seen people pass me up who are not necessarily people pleasers, who aren't just doing what they're told, but they're getting their ideas heard and adopted, and then they get the even greater reward than, that guy's so nice and easy to work with. Instead, that guy's got great ideas, he acts like a boss, he's going places. And forgive me for speaking in terms of, men, but that's what I am. This, insert your gender here. It's true about all of us. So that's a little bit about what I'm trying to say here, as far as the secret, the life hack to staying motivated. And the secret is that motivation isn't enough. You need grit, perseverance, discipline. And those things are hard. But as we put effort towards those things and we practice these things, we give ourselves rewards, we set timers, we step away, we take our power nap, over time, that discipline, those good habits are formed, right? And again, here I come talking as if, this is going to work for everybody and that I know all things, which I don't, I'm just telling you what's worked for me. I have heard others, echo the same kinds of things, so it must work for other people to a certain extent as well. So this is me sharing some of that with y'all. So let me know, if that's something that helps you, seriously, I want to engage, drop me a comment. You go to the website, there's a place to comment, YouTube, place to comment, some of the podcast platforms, not so much, but just let me know, you've tried these things, they work, they don't work, what have I missed? Where can I improve this? And together we can all learn to focus that much better on our goals, on our path to becoming the best human we want to be, the best creator, the best creative, whether it's music or design or illustration, animation, woodworking, entrepreneurship. It's all there. It's all creative. And speaking of creative, here's a little bonus thing that I've been thinking about lately. And that is that sometimes, I talk about always be creating, right? Or create or die. And we think about creating as a right-brained and has to do with the arts, right? Well, if you're not creating, a painting or a new song or this awesome motion graphics piece or whatever, create you some memories, okay? And we're always creating memories, whether we like it or not. And are they good memories or are they bad memories? Are they notable memories? Are they memories that you're just creating for yourself? Or are they memories you're creating for a bigger group, your family, your friends, your coworkers? I am extremely grateful for the memories I was able to create this past summer with my family on our boat. Something that I've had my sights on for decades, but only in the past year or two started to think like, well, maybe there's a path to actually making it happen. And we did this past year. And that's not to say, oh, good job, you went into debt for something. Because, I didn't just pay cash or anything crazy like that. But I'm willing to invest in those memories with my family, because I know that just like investing money returns dividends in the future, investing in those memories returns dividends in the future. I was blessed to have an amazing childhood and parents who were loving and supportive, and they're still with us, thankfully. And we didn't have a boat. We didn't necessarily, so you don't need these material things per se, but they encouraged me to pursue art and design when there was not as clear of a path for people to actually make money at this thing, right? It was starving artist, right? That's what we'd all hear. You're gonna be a starving artist? No, we're not gonna wish that upon our worst enemy, right? You need to become a doctor or a lawyer. You play the game of life, the board game, right? What were the highest paying jobs? Doctor, lawyer. Artist was the thing you got. It was like akin to being a teacher, unfortunately, which is definitely an underpaid and underappreciated pursuit. So, long story short, I'm grateful for the memories that were created for me by my parents. I'm trying to do the same things for my kids. And recently, as a company, as a marketing department, we went out and did some classic skating and went to Fancy Burger. If you've been there, it's an awesome, tasty burger joint, and created some good memories. And so that's the little bonus tip there, that just because you're not sitting at the computer or the iPad or your guitar or a piece of paper and physically trying to be creative, you're still creating memories no matter what you're doing. But my one dude's perspective would be, try to make those good memories. Try to make those memories that are going to stick, because we all only have a certain amount of time, a certain amount of rotations on this earth, right? And, people aren't necessarily going to remember the random things that you created, but they're going to remember how they felt around you, and they're going to remember that you took the time to do X, Y, or Z with them. And please, I'm not coming from a place of like, yeah, I do this perfectly. I'm patting myself on the back. I'm not very flexible, so it's just upper chest or shoulder, right? No, it's a reminder to me as well, as it should be to all of us, I think, to be intentional with our time. And, there's no such thing as having that perfect balance, because we need to be 100% focused on one thing at a time, one pursuit. Maybe this is the time of your life, or this week or this day, you need to focus on your job. That's the most important thing. Another day, another week, or whatever it might be, like, your family is being neglected. You need to pivot, focus on them, and take a day off of work, whatever. But just constantly be monitoring. That's what I'm telling myself lately. It's not like I can, do a day job, do a podcast, do side work, do, build audiences, and put that all in that kind of work category, and just say, okay, there's 12 awake hours every day. I can devote 6 hours to this bucket and then 6 hours to my family, and I can always be even like that. And no, that's called, you're not going to get ahead in anything. Successful people are oftentimes need to have some imbalance. And what I've told myself, maybe this will work for you, maybe it's going to bite me one of these days, but I'd rather have real quality time with my family than just quantity time. Like, if we're going to go and spend time together, we're going to go boating, or we're going to, play board games or poker or whatever at the kitchen table together, or we're going to be all in on the Wii and playing, Wii Sports or whatever, or Smash Brothers, or, insert favorite multiplayer game here, but rather than just, hey, I'm not working and around y'all, so therefore we're spending time together, and this is a reminder for me to get better. And so I hope that it's been a help to you. Let me know. But in the meantime, just keep on creating. Create or die.